Allah is my heart's speech. Your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate test.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this new episode of Ask Huda. I am your host, Fuad Muhammad. We are privileged as well to be joined today by our dear and respected scholar, Dr. Mohamed Salah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for jazakumullah khairan.
Good to have you here as well. Doctor, just a quick reminder of our telephone numbers, 00-202-38555-248 or 249. Or you can send us an email at ask, that's ask@huda.tv. Just before we go into the questions, I would like to give the viewers a quick reminder. We would really appreciate if you guys can really prepare the question before asking it and be precise while asking the question. This is to save our airtime, and as well, if you can try to limit the number of questions to 3, and don't forget to turn the level of your television set before asking that question. Jazakallah khair. Doctor, our first question here is from Brother Sino from France, and he said, I visited Egypt, and we know that Egypt is the home of the world-renowned Islamic University, Al-Azhar, and he said there is a recent study that showed that 75% of the Islamic scholars of the world are from Egypt. He said, but however, when he visited Egypt, he finds something very strange, that the Muslims are not practicing as much as he would have realized the amount of Muslims to be practicing their religion properly. He said, how as a Muslim can I really understand this?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. La siyama al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathira. I praise Allah alone, and I send the best peace and blessings upon His Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. As a matter of fact, this is a very important question that kept me busy for days. It should be a case study, not just a simple question. Because it's not limited to one country or another. Mm-hmm. Rather, this is a common complaint in the entire Muslim world at large. And I guess I have to be organized in sorting out the answers as follows in points and bullet points. The first one, the first point, that we cannot generalize. Mm-hmm. We cannot say the people of this country or that country are religious or not religious. Because basically, in order to make such a decision, you really have to make a very accurate study, and it is very difficult for an individual to do that. Mm-hmm. You have not visited the villages, you have not visited people who are living in remote areas. Perhaps you visited downtown that country or the capital or wherever. So this is not a proper way to pass a judgment, then generalize. This is number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, it's a fact that many Muslims who were born in Islam took Islam for granted. They have been either misinformed or they're lazy enough to rely on some statements they hear from here or there, or misinterpreting some verses of the Quran when they hear that Inna Allah ghafurur rahim, Allahu ghafurur rahim, that Allah is of forgiving. This is what they keep chanting and repeating all the time. While Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, اعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب وأن الله غفور رحيم. You've got to know that Allah is not only that He's of forgiving, meanwhile He is severe in punishment. So you have to keep balance between hope and fear. Yes. Many Muslims, especially those who are born in Islam, do not know much about their religion because they hear their foreparents and their forefathers and the official scholars saying that Allah forgives all sins, and this is all what they hear, which is true. They want to exhort people, they want to attract them to the deen, but they do not keep balance by explaining to them that the sins which we commit day and night are also punishable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have met many people who were born and raised and grew up in Mecca. They have never, not just performed Hajj or Umrah, no, they have never set a foot in the Haram. SubhanAllah. Many. Why? Because they earned this Islam without any effort on their behalf or on their side. While Muslims who came from France, from Russia, from the States, from China, they challenged the entire society, they challenged themselves, they challenged their employees, their workers, their families, the whole society, their desires, and the whole world in order to accept Islam and swim against the current. So they accepted the challenge and they were very happy with their choice. So that's why they take it serious, not for granted. And they make a lot of effort to study the Arabic and the Quran, perhaps more than those who were born in Islam. Furthermore, we should not forget nor neglect nor undermine the effect of the negative influence of the secular media in all and most of the Muslim countries. Let me say it this way, in most of the Muslim countries, especially the Arabic countries, where the media is completely secular, materialistic, and is trying to demolish the Islamic structure by spreading movies and series and songs and music and parties, and portraying Islam and religious scholars as backwarded, as fanatic, as extremist, as the cause of every disaster, of every trouble that's happening. So if the country is backwarded in science, in physics, in nuclear facilities, they say it's because of the Muslim scholars, because of the Islamists. Just recently, yesterday, I read an article, it's very amazing, where an official officer, employee who is in a very prestigious position of one of the Muslim countries, he is casting the blame on the Muslim preachers of all the imams of the masajid. They said that all the effort that our TV and media is trying to propagate, he's talking about what kind of education, musical education, the education of mingling men and women in series and movies and kissing and hugging, being westernized in this fashion. He said all our effort is in vain simply because of the counteracts of those preachers who are backwarded, who are whatever. And this is a person who is in an official position in an Islamic country, one of the biggest and the most famous and the most growing Islamic countries. So when you hear that, that reflects in which direction the official way is going. It's going totally against spreading the deen. Let's add another fact, which is the financial circumstances where people are living would force most of them to neglect, sometimes deliberately, the religious teachings in order to earn their living. In some studies, it says that corruption led people, even if they were as pure, as good as angels, to stretch out their hands to the haram, to fetch in others' pockets in order to collect money that's enough to put bread on the table. So that's why bribery or rishwa, exactly as the Prophet ﷺ prophesied, has become so widespread in the Muslim countries, yet they give it different names. They call it a gift, they call it whatever, but they do not call it rishwa, because it is known that the Prophet ﷺ said bribery is cursed, and the person who pays rishwa and the person who is an intermediate between the one who's paying and the one who's taken is also cursed or accursed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Add to that the official scholars who are willing to twist the truth and misinterpret Quranic verses to the extent that they would make literally the haram lawful and the halal unlawful. And I have followed in my study some of those scholars who, when they graduated from Al-Azhar University, for instance, they were very strong in deen and religious knowledge, and whenever they were asked about one mas'ala, they said what the Prophet ﷺ said in that mas'ala. Then when they were appointed in one position, they were more lenient, and they said, it is not really wajib, rather it is recommended. Then after a while, looking forward for a bigger position, that recommended has become disliked, and that wajib from recommended to dislike has become prohibited. On the other hand, we have seen some prominent scholars who are representing the vast majority of Muslims, but I'm talking about in an official way, have made the unlawful lawful, and they fought their entire life in order to propagate for the haram as halal, such as giving fatwas concerning riba, plain riba, charging or paying interest as it is lawful, because this is between the country or the government and the citizens, and the government is like the dad, and there is no riba between the dad and his children. This is totally awful, but Well, there are people right there who are willing to hear any word that would give them any excuse to undergo the haram and say, it's not me, it is the scholar. Then they appoint him as the biggest scholar of the Sunnis or of this party or this country. He's in charge for that. So a combination of all of those factors would put us in the situation which we're having right now. So what happened to the 75%? The brother is saying that 75% of the world Muslim scholars are in Egypt. I really do not know about this study, even though when you perform Hajj, for instance, you see the audio CDs, the video, the tapes, the books. Most of them belong to Egyptian scholars, but not necessarily Al-Azhar scholars. Either way, what I'm trying to say is, let me be very honest and straightforward. Those scholars are more known outside than inside. Why? Because we find it easy outside to attend and listen to their audio tapes and watch their videos. Those scholars, in most cases, most of them do not have an access or an easy access to the public, to the people, to preach them. They're not allowed to sit with them in the masajid or in halqas on regular basis. Just recently, a couple of years ago, everybody knows that they have this facility of speaking to the public, not just to a specific country, but worldwide through the satellite TVs. And alhamdulillah, shukla, it is producing the best fruits ever by the leave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But still, there is a big difference between preaching on a screen and sitting with the students. If you ask me, yes, I'm giving some sort of benefits. But whenever I was sitting in the Islamic Center, I have a group of students, some of them PhD holders, some of them are surgeons or anesthesiologists or whatever. And we're studying on daily basis fiqh, or science of the Quran, or the principles of fiqh, etc. on regular basis. Those people have not just become educated and religiously knowledgeable, but practicing as well. Because we have, as a whole ummah, we have to understand the following, that we should not make distinction between belief and practice. Whoever makes distinction between belief and practice is secular, is not a true Muslim. Islam is as follows: is an utterance of the word of the Tawheed by the tongue, believing in it by the heart, and fulfilling its requirements by our jawarih, the body parts, and our limbs, concerning what we consume, concerning what we say, concerning what we do. So when the ummah would come to this understanding where people, whatever they learn, it has been narrated that Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second caliph, the second in the list of the 10 heaven-bound companions, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu arda, the fluent Arabic person, it took him 12 years to memorize Surah Al-Baqarah. Why? Memorizing was not an issue for them, because memorizing for them meant the following: to read, understand, implement, and memorize. So by the time he grasped on the meaning of the entire surah and practiced all its commands, he said, I have memorized Surah Al-Baqarah, and he made a party and he slaughtered a camel or a she-camel in order to celebrate that. That teaches us that the deen, our belief and our knowledge should not be separated from reality. We have to put what we have learned into practice. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assist us to fulfill it.
Ameen. Ameen. Jazakallah khair for clarifying that, Doctor. We have Brother Ahmed from the United Arab Emirates. Assalamu alaikum, brother. You're live and ask their questions, please.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother, I have a quick question. You know, all the companies in the UAE, I'm actually working for a FMCG company. They provide all the employees with medical insurance.
Okay.
It's compulsory. It's either you don't have any choice.
Okay. Okay. You want to know if it's...
So is it permissible to use this medical insurance? Actually, I got it for myself and for my family.
Okay.
طيب,
Okay.
in brief, quickly, because I did answer this so many times, medical insurance with which is purchased from a commercial insurance company is prohibited. If it is imposed on you by the company or by the government, then you don't have a choice. So we only take the part which is mandatory or required by your employer, as long as you don't have any other alternative. And people who sign up, being forced to sign up with any insurance, whether any kind of insurance, they are only allowed to benefit from this kind of insurance according to how much they paid. not more, or otherwise that's considered as some sort of riba. Wallahu a'lam.
Okay, Jazakallah khair, Doctor, for that. We have also Sister Marwa from Egypt. Assalamu alaikum, Sister. You're live on Ask Huda. Sister Marwa, are you with us?
Hello?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum. Go ahead with your question, please.
Hello?
Yes, Sister
Hello?
Marwa, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. Jazakumullah khairan for this topic. I have two questions, please.
Okay.
The first question is for a Muslim who is, inshallah, moving to the West, and I want to know how can I prepare myself to this step by trying to deepen my knowledge in my Islamic knowledge and making use of this time before I go there. This is my first question. The second question is, I don't know, is it possible for a Muslim living in a non-Muslim society to try to make it clear for the society that any good actions that he makes or she makes is actually the fruit of his Islamic education? And on the opposite, if he does commit anything wrong, it's normal, it's a human nature. So is it possible to do this? Because sometimes this is a thought that comes to my mind so many times.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. Interesting question, Sister Marwa, there.
Do we
From
have
Egypt.
another phone call?
No, we don't.
Okay, Sister Marwa, if you want my sincere advice, if somebody has opportunity to travel to a non-Muslim country to live and work there, if he does not have a legitimate reason, such as that he is going exclusively for da'wah or treatment or seeking a knowledge like delegates with the universities in order to prepare their master's or PhD, that's not available in the Muslim countries. These are legitimate causes or reasons. Or sometimes many Muslims are being forced to leave their Muslim countries. They're being oppressed for working in da'wah for whatever reason. In this condition, that's legitimate. But simply in order to have a better living conditions, there is there is nothing better than entertaining yourself by hearing the adhan 5 times a day.
SubhanAllah.
By having an access to send your kids safely to pray in the nearby masjid anywhere, or if you are in the mall or a shopping plaza or in a picnic, then you hear the adhan, you say to your boys, okay, go and pray in the masjid. If you are in any sporting club, if you are in any plaza, go pray in the masjid. I'll wait for you in the car. You don't have this facility in a non-Muslim country. You're not going to hear the adhan. You find it a bit difficult to entertain them in an Islamic school. Yes, there is, but I'm talking to you from an experience. So whatever I advise my beloved ones with, for the sake of Allah, this is a testimony to be presented before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment. If there is no legitimate reason for you to move to a non-Muslim land, then stick around and learn from the scholars and enjoy praying in a masajid. I know that the role of the masajid nowadays have become so reduced and so limited, especially I know where you're coming from, where the masjid have become limited just to only offer the fard and then they close the doors. But even though that's still better, having my kids join public schools or even private schools in non-Muslim countries is a big challenge. And if I put before you the messages, the complaints, the sorrow and the grief that I hear from families and parents who have went through this experience before, then you would decide immediately, you're right. So I'm giving you an advice for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to consider that thoroughly. Number 2, if you do have a legitimate reason, then in this condition, you have to prepare yourself with the adequate defense mechanism, such as before moving to any place, you have to inquire about the neighborhood. Where are most Muslims living? On the contrary, many Muslims deliberately say, okay, I don't want to live next to Muslims.
SubhanAllah.
I don't want to be labeled, or I don't want people to think that I'm one of them. Okay, in this condition, you choose not to be one of the Muslims. Right? So, find out and ask Muslims in the States, religious practicing people, professionals, those who have children especially, before moving, take for example physicians. Before moving to another clinic or another state, they call around. If there is a nearby masjid and an Islamic school, and they make a visit first in order to inquire about the Muslim facility there, the masjid, and what kind of classes they offer, the Islamic center, and so on, before making the decision. Because making this move, even if you're making tons of money, that's nothing. That's nothing. Tomorrow you're going to complain that your son is in drugs and your daughter is having a boyfriend, God forbid, but this is typical. Okay, I don't want to lie to you. Most of the time, this is very, very typical. You're not going to be watching over your kids 24 hours. Your kids will spend in a school more time than they spend with you or with their dad or the family at large. You cannot counter all of that by giving them a couple of advices in the evening. That resulted in the following, that having kids who are wearing masks, they come home, okay, what do you guys want? You want us to appear as religiously committed, as praying on time, and so, okay, we'll do whatever you want to do. And once they're free, either going to college abroad, in another state, or, then they are on their own. Why? Because we are, as human beings, very weak. خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. When you put yourself in temptation environment, in the middle of all those temptations, what happens to you? By the end, you're still a human being. And as I spoke in the previous episode, that's why there is a great principle in the deen which is known as blocking the means. I don't want to take much time talking about that, but I pray for you and your family. May Allah guide you and all of us to what's best.
Ameen. Ameen. We have Brother Ali from Canada. Assalamu alaikum, brother. You're live and ask Huda questions, please. Brother Ali, are you with us? Okay, we move on to the next caller, which is Brother Sami from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello?
Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear?
Wa alaikum assalam.
Go ahead, brother.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please. And please
Hello?
turn on the volume of your television set.
Hello?
Yeah, I think we're having some
Hello?
technical difficulties there.
Hello?
I think we have some technical difficulties there from the telephone, inshallah. Let's move on, Doctor. We have Brother Imran here from the UAE and a sister from the UK asking the same question. Brother Imran's question is, what is the sin of the woman who travels alone? And the sister's from UK's question is that she wants to know if a sister can travel with her 5-year-old kids to a Muslim country to get away from the Western society.
Okay. There is a hadith that's collected by Imam Bukhari, may Allah have mercy on him. In addition to other sound hadith, but this particular hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يحل لامرأة تؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر أن تسافر مسيرة يومين إلا مع ذي محرم. As I said, this is collected by Imam al-Bukhari. What does it mean? It means it is not permissible for a woman, a Muslim woman who believes in Allah, and in the last day of accountability, that you will be presented before Allah and you have to answer. The question is asked, how big is the sin? I don't have a measurement to say, it is that big or is that little. But it's a big sin. That the Prophet ﷺ said, it is not permissible for a woman who believes in Allah and in the last day to travel the distance of a day and night, or 2 days. This distance is measured by walking. So walking for 2 days or a day and night, that's equivalent to approximately the travel distance where a person is allowed to shorten the prayer if he or she were to travel. That's 80 kilometers approximately. 80 kilometers.
Okay.
So if you don't have a male mahram and there is no emergency, then you should not take any journey without a male mahram. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. Here is a comment, because I hear a lot from people, but such and such sheikh and so said, well, nowadays traveling is safe, and if it is in a safe journey, it is permissible to perform Hajj and to travel for tourism and to spend the vacation in here and there. I say, just take for example, last week, millions of passengers have been stranded in airports for a whole week, almost for a whole week, due to the volcano and so on. What happened? They were sitting, lying down at the airports. They were stranded. Imagine if a Muslim woman wearing her hijab and she is stranded for a whole week there. Many things happened that I have witnessed myself. An older woman who came to perform Hajj all the way from the States. And she did not have a male mahram. She did not have anyone. Somebody told her that, the travel agent, you know what? As long as you're traveling with us, that's a safe company. And the scholar said it is permissible. When we finished Hajj, she was all alone by herself. Upon our return, she got extremely sick. And on the plane, I asked for help. I checked on her and I found out that she needed a cardiologist. So they checked on her and they decided to take her to the hospital. She had similar to heart attack or whatever. She had no one next to her whatsoever. No family member. Her family back home did not know what's going on. And every person who came with his family, obviously, they wanted to go home. They are not responsible nor in charge for a woman who travel alone by herself. This is an example. I said, صَدَقَ اللَّهُ وَصَدَقَ رَسُولَهُ. Allah and His Messenger ﷺ have spoken the truth. It is not permissible for a woman to travel alone without a male mahram. As far as the age, what's required in the mahram is Islam, al-aql, al-bulugh. So if I have a grown-up man, but he is insane, he is not fit to be a mahram. If we have a person who's big in size, but he has not reached the age of puberty yet, then he is not baligh. Al-bulugh means reaching the age of puberty. So if a child who is even 13 or 14 but have reached the age of puberty, then he's a male mahram and you can travel with him. Wallahu a'lam.
Okay, and her second question, the sister from UK, she says, my friend's husband have a girlfriend and she wants to know if it's permissible for her to spy on her husband.
I really don't know. It might be a little tricky to assume such thing, and it is my tradition to not to answer any question similar to that unless if I'm completely encompassing the circumstances of the complaint or the problem. But I would never accept that for a Muslim to have an outside marriage relationship. This is the major sin. Even if it is not up to adultery or zina. Dating, chatting, having a cup of coffee or lunching together or dining together with a woman who's not your mahram nor your wife is definitely haram. And if the wife is sure that is happening, then it is her right to either confront him or ask her wali, if she has a wali or the local imam, to intervene and sort this out. Either by, if she thinks that talking to him directly might bring him back to his senses and to his religion, then she should pursue this way. If she knows that he's stubborn and he is not practicing, then the other alternatives are there as well. Wallahu a'lam.
Okay, we have Michael from Egypt. Are you there, Michael? Welcome to Ask Huda. Michael, are you with us? I think we're having a problem here with the telephone line. This is from UK. She asked the third question. She said, is it okay for a woman to keep in shape for her husband by exercising?
It is highly recommended. Why only okay? It is definitely recommended not only for the wife to keep in shape by exercising for her husband, and vice versa as well. Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, the Prophet's cousin, used to say, إني لأتزين لزوجتي كما أحب أن تتزين لي.
SubhanAllah.
He said, I adorn myself for my wife exactly as I like for her to adorn herself for me. So you like to see your wife in good shape, wearing nice perfume, wearing the clothes that you like? Likewise. The same thing, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. This is an Islamic etiquette that's stated in the Quran and in the sound sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. We see girls nowadays are exercising several hours a day, and boys. Why? In order to impress each other at college, at school, at work, or whatever. No, that should be done in order, number one, to keep yourself in a good shape, because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. And Umar ibn Khattab, when he was at an old age, he was eating something that's hard by his teeth. He had a full deck of teeth. Somebody said that, MashaAllah, I love your teeth. He said, هذه أعضاء حفظناها في الصغر فحفظها الله علينا في الكبر. These are body parts which we maintain when we were young. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved them for them when we grow up. Every Muslim is commanded to keep in good shape. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, المؤمن القوي خير وأحب إلى الله من المؤمن الضعيف. The stronger and the powerful believer is dearer to Allah than the weaker one. Even though all of us, beginning by myself, are lagging behind in this field of exercise and so on due to our other commitments, but we have to spare some time in order to keep in good shape.
Inshallah, inshallah. We hope we do have the time to do some exercise, inshallah. We have Sister Aya from Canada. Assalamu alaikum. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your questions, please.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
Go ahead, sister.
I have two questions.
Okay.
My first question is, my husband and I were looking, inshallah, to adopt, and we're just wondering what the rights are if I breastfed the baby. Like if we adopt a girl, if she has to wear hijab around my husband.
Okay.
And my second question is, I'm just wondering about anashid, if you can explain exactly what anashid is, because there are songs about Islam and things, but they have drums and other instruments in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm just wondering if you can clarify that.
Okay. Very good questions from Sister Aya there.
If we don't have any phone calls, I'll be happy to answer the question first.
Okay, we have Abdul Qadir from Libya, and then Brother Abdul Qadir, are you with us? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Abdul Qadir, how are you?
I want to ask a question.
Okay.
Fine, thank you. I want to ask a question.
Proceed on.
I am black. We are Libya.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if you go to pray in the masjid, they are telling you we have already been. What can you do to go to heaven? I don't hear that answer.
Oh, say it again, please, Brother Abdul Qadir.
Sometimes if you go to masjid, I pray with Arabs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Abdul Qadir, lower the volume on your TV set. Abdul Qadir, hold on 1 second. Abdul Qadir, we can really understand your question. Lower the volume and speak slowly.
Okay. I said, sometimes if we are going to masjid, we are black men.
Okay.
Understand?
Mm-hmm.
The Arabs, they are always telling you that you have already been. Why do you go to? Why do you worry yourself and pray? You will never go to heaven.
Why is that? Why is that? Why do they tell you that?
I don't know. I just don't know. Because of that, I asked that question.
Okay, we'll try to answer it.
So are you linking between being black and what they say to you? Okay, I would be more than happy to answer your question before Sister Aya from Canada.
Okay, if we can if we can just take Brother Mahmoud from Jordan. Sorry about that, Doctor. We have Brother Mahmoud from Jordan. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I'm just going to keep it in the same topic there in regard of movement from a Western country. I'm going to take it like an opposite way than the previous question. It was coming from a Western country was Arab area in regard to grow up the kids on the right Islamic society. If you can speak more about that, brother, and what's recommended the country. I'm from Jordan originally, but my wife from Australia, and basically we having a problem with the society in Jordan and on some other Arab countries with like what you mentioned before, the secularism and all other stuff.
Okay.
Much appreciated.
Okay. Welcome. That's Brother Mahmoud here from Jordan.
Abdul Qadir.
Okay, go ahead.
Brother Abdul Qadir, being black or white is never a determining factor concerning entering heaven. Rather, what really decides is righteousness and piety. This is the first rule that is stated both in the Quran and in the Sunnah. In the Quran, in Surah Al-Hujurat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. Then there is another ayah which says من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة ولنجزينهم أجرهم بأحسن ما كانوا يعملون. The meaning of the first ayah, that we've created you, O mankind, from male and female, then we made you into nations and tribes in order to get to know one another. Indeed, the noblest one of you is the one who is more pious. The determining factor is righteousness and piety. The second verse is pertaining, differentiating between genders. On that basis, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, whosoever does good righteous deeds while he or she is a believer, whether male or a female, we're going to reward them the same. Good life in this life, and in the hereafter we'll reward them according to the best of what they used to do. From the Sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ said, there is no superiority for an Arab over a non-Arab except through righteousness and piety. It's a lengthy hadith, and the Prophet ﷺ stated this doctrine in the farewell speech. Neither for a black over a white, nor for a white over a black. There is complete equity in Islam. This is one of the main messages. And that's why when the Meccans objected to, how could you set us with the servants, with the slaves, Bilal ibn Rabah and those black guys, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam refused any proposal to segregate between the community. As a matter of fact, one of the great companions by the name Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, may Allah be pleased with him, once in a conflict between him and Bilal ibn Rabah, he made a remark concerning his complexion. And Bilal ibn Rabah went to the Prophet ﷺ complaining about what Abu Dharr said. So the Prophet ﷺ was very angry with Abu Dharr, even though he loved him so much. So he said, Ya Abu Dharr, I want you to notice, in one hadith, other than the incident, he said, the Prophet ﷺ said to Abu Dharr, Ya Abu Dharr, inni uhibbuk, I love you. But in this incident, he said to him, Ya Abu Dharr, innaka mru'un fika jahiliyyah. You're a man who's still maintaining some of the traces of ignorance, the era before Islam. So he learned the lesson. He rushed to Bilal ibn Rabah, apologizing to him. His way of apology, he sat his face on the floor. And he insisted, and he asked Bilal, Ya Bilal, in order to prove to me that you pardon me and forgive me, step with your foot on my head, on my face. There is no difference between an Arab nor or a non-Arab, a black over a white, nor vice versa, except through righteousness and piety. The third point that I wanted to highlight here is a person who says to another, whether white or black, male or female, short or tall, young or old, if a person says to another, by Allah, you will never enter heaven, there is an indication in the Sunnah that person, the person who stated that, would not enter heaven if he does not repent. Because the Prophet ﷺ narrated to us an incident about two friends. One of whom was very pious and the other was extremely wicked. So the pious would constantly advise the sinner to repent, and he says, perhaps one day pray for me, etc., like most of the laymen and the common folk. So one day the righteous man have seen the sinner was committing a big sin. He said, by Allah, Allah will never forgive you for that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the angel of death to capture and take the souls of both of them. Then he revived them after death. And he said to the one who was righteous in this life, go to fire. And he said to the sinner, go to heaven by my mercy. مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَتَأَلَّى عَلَى اللَّهِ? Who gave you this authority to send people to heaven and send people to hellfire? Don't you know that we don't have this power to be judgmental of disbelievers who are alive in this life to say that they will be in hell? You never know. The most wicked disbelievers, if they end up becoming believers and they die in this condition, perhaps they will be better than you and I. We drove many examples, like the example of Ikrimah, the son of Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl is the Pharaoh of this ummah. His son was so wicked and was so anti the Prophet ﷺ and Muslims, to the extent, during the conquest of Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ said, wheresoever you find Ikrimah, kill him. No excuse. Even if you find him around the Kaaba, hanging or clinging himself to the cloth of the Kaaba, still kill him. But he managed to come to the Prophet ﷺ and accept Islam and seek safety and security. Then later on he became one of the greatest companions of the Prophet ﷺ, so that when we mention his name right now, we say, may Allah be pleased with him.
Subhanallah.
Behave with Allah. You're just a very insignificant living creature. You're just nothing. How could you be judgmental of others and say, because you're black, you will enter hell? You don't have to do any good thing. Ignorance is coming and is growing out of your eyes. The person who says that, his heart is full of ignorance. His eyes are so blind. His ears are so deaf. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to what's best and pardon us for sins which we do either knowingly or unknowingly. And
Jazakallah khair, Dr. We'll take a short break here on Ask Huda, and we'll be back right after this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.